Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, the comedians that perform here, and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what helps make up our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Dawn Davis Womack.
Hello, laughers. Santa Claus is coming to town. Today on the show, we have Mr. and Mrs. Claus. It's a busy time of year, so we're lucky to get some time with them on a Zoom call to the North Pole. Santa Claus, also known as Father Christmas, St. Nicholas, St. Nick, Kris Kringle, or simply Santa, is famously known for delivering gifts and candy to children all over the globe on Christmas Eve, unless, of course, they are naughty. He can't do it all without the help of his elves, the flying reindeer who pull his sleigh of toys through the air, and of course, Mrs. Claus. We're honored to have them on the show as our guests today. Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
This is so exciting. I can't believe that the word on the street I hear is that you now have a second home in Harrisonburg. How did you end up choosing the Friendly City? How are we so lucky?
We just love the area. We love the clean mountain air here, and the valley is so beautiful and gets all four seasons, which we don't get at the North Pole.
Never see another season at the North Pole. That's true. I have never been. Maybe after this, I can be a guest at the North Pole. We'll see.
Anytime. Our door is always open.
I'm going to put it on my calendar, and we're going to make
we'll
a date.
Send the reindeer down
this.
for you.
Oh, send the reindeer down for me. That would be the best way to travel, without a doubt.
The only way to get to the North Pole.
That's true. That's true. I'm going to hold you to it, Mr. Claus. I'm going to hold you to it. Now, listen, Mrs. Claus, does Santa ever bring home any of the cookies that people leave out on Christmas Eve?
No, we have so many cookies in the North Pole. It's what I do. So he eats what he can. Sometimes he has to leave one or two if he's eaten a few too many, but he doesn't bring them back to the North Pole.
I do eat most of them.
He does.
What do you do with the ones you don't eat? You leave them there?
The reindeer eat some of them, and then we leave little crumbs behind for the mice.
What's your favorite cookie?
Anything round. But I like all cookies, really. I like any shape, whatever the children like to leave for.
Any cookies made with love.
That's right.
That's
and butter.
And butter.
Yeah, that's the most important ingredient. And
Makes
sugar.
it so good.
It does. It does. Now, when you travel all around the globe, not every home has a chimney. So what do you do when that happens?
Well, a lot of the children leave a key for me. There's a special Santa key that you can leave. You can get them in a lot of the Christmas stores. And I do have a few other tricks that I can't really share because some people aren't as nice as Santa and they might use them in a bad way. So I can get into most houses when I need to.
That's important. Safety first. I believe in that too. That's good. Mrs. Claus, now he's pretty busy, Christmas Eve gallivanting around the world. So what are you doing when Santa is out of town?
When Santa takes off for his night flight, I get a few hours to put my feet up and relax, catch up on The Bachelorette, and then I start prepping for the next day when he arrives back. So it's a big celebration when he arrives back. So I get to relax for that evening.
At least that's what she tells me.
That's got to feel real good after working hard all year.
Sure. You got to a little me time after an entire year of prep work. So Mrs. Claus does quite a bit of work around there.
She does. Right. She makes everything run smoothly.
Yeah, I know that we wouldn't be able to do it without her. I appreciate that. That's good self-love right there and self-care, Mrs. Claus.
That's right. Very important.
That is very important. Now, Santa, you have gotten a lot of nicknames over the years. What's your favorite one?
I think my favorite nickname has to be Big Red.
Big Red? Do you remember who first gave you that nickname, or just everybody was doing it?
It's one that I've heard many times over the years. There are, of course, many nicknames for Santa Claus. Saint Nicholas, Sinterklaas, of course, Santa. But Big Red always just struck me as a perfect summation of me. I'm big and I wear red all the time.
That's very accurate.
Jolly old elf.
That's right. He speaks truth about himself. That's good.
That's it. That's
Know
it.
thyself. That's what they say.
That's
Now,
it.
you got a sleigh, and you've been around for a few centuries now. So there's a lot of technology innovation since you first started. How has it really changed over the years? Have you ever been stranded anywhere?
Well, we've never been stranded very long. The sleigh basically has always run on reindeer power, which is part magic and it is part Christmas spirit. The reindeer themselves do pull the sleigh, but they wouldn't do it without that Christmas magic. So from time to time, we've tried other things. We've tried different types of engines or backup power, but it always goes back to the true reindeer power and the spirit of Christmas.
So there's, what's that, Mrs. Claus?
Navigation.
Well, yeah, we have added some. We used to use paper maps. We used to have to fuddle with those while we were trying to fly, and now we have a GPS system on the sleigh that helps us find our way around at night, especially in the bad weather.
Yeah.
So things like that have certainly improved over the years.
Yeah. So you do, when you have those technical difficulties, is there like a elf unit that comes out from the North Pole? And if there's you're in dire straits, you kind of phone the North Pole or?
Well, yeah, we do have the radio system back and forth to the North Pole. And then if we do have trouble, they could always bring us the spare sleigh, which we keep on reserve, and then switch it out for us as quickly as we can. But we get around so fast that happens in an instant.
Yeah, that is amazing how much ground you guys, can cover, you and the reindeer, in 24 hours. It's a miracle.
They are very fast. It's almost like time stands still for that.
I know. It's such a special time. I get excited every year about it. I can't wait till you come,
I even follow on NORAD Santa online, so I know exactly where he is. There's actually dash cams and videos of what he's seeing and where he is on NORAD
The
Santa.
children can follow that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have never done this, and I am 52 and feeling right now that I am missing out, and I have never heard of this. It's a website.
It's wonderful.
Every Christmas Eve.
Absolutely. It follows exactly where he travels in every country and how many presents he's delivered so far.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
How do you spell that? We're going to put that in the show notes.
NORAD, NORAD Santa.
Mm-hmm.
NORAD Santa. What's a NORAD stand for? I don't even know.
NORAD is the air defense system from the United States, and they have kindly decided to help us, help the children track Santa on Christmas Eve. And this way they know where I am, so there's no accidental mistakes of who I am up in the air and any problems with that while I'm traveling around.
Yeah, NORADSanta.org.
Well, we are going to definitely put that in the show notes, Laughers.
Absolutely. I highly recommend it. I'll be watching Christmas Eve.
So those are some of the new things that there are.
Yeah. What are some other new innovations around the workshop, maybe even that have been a good
3D
addition?
Printing. 3D printing has been
printing
big.
helps. Yeah, everything is still made by the elves, but there's a lot of automation that now makes it where they can do multiple toys at one time as opposed to constructing one toy at a time, so they can get so many more done for more kids around the world. So things that have progressed internationally in factories, we've used the best practices from those and upgraded our facility as well. The North Pole moves with the times.
Moves with the times and rolling with the punches. What were you going to say?
Although Santa still enjoys the paper letters.
I do.
He still enjoys the letters from the children to come to the North Pole.
Yes, I read every letter. I will read them also if they email them to me, or sometimes children, if they can't get them to me in time, they can write the letter and then they put it in the fireplace, and I'll be able to see it that way as well. If they're a little late on their letters sometimes, but I do enjoy reading the letters each personally.
Do some of them send drawings, I imagine?
They do. I get drawings, I get lists, I get pictures of me, pictures of their family, sometimes pictures of what they want for Christmas. So we get all kinds of great letters from the kids.
What do you do with all the letters when they come in? You have a place where you post them, like we do Christmas cards, around the house. What does that look like?
I save them.
Mrs.
You
Claus
save
saves them.
Mm-hmm.
She's in charge. She's sort of our letter librarian.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's got to be a big storage space
It
for all
is.
of those.
We have a lot of room in the North Pole.
Thankfully. Oh, that's so beautiful. Now
they're very sweet to read.
I bet they are. Yeah, you got a lot of little helpers around there with all those elves.
Mm-hmm.
Are they seriously happy all the time, or do you have some that get moody like people sometimes?
Oh, no, they're just like regular people. They have good days and bad days. Some get grouchy, some get sad. We try to keep them as happy as we can. But they are just like anyone else, just
one big happy family. But there's a lot of diversity in the North Pole. We celebrate diversity in the North Pole.
All different kinds of elves, and they have all different kinds of emotions and feelings. But for the most part, because they enjoy what they do, and the North Pole is such a happy place, they spend most of the time happy and singing and laughing. But of course, they do have bad days too.
Diversity, that's really great to hear. But diversity, is it more in ethnicity and that type of thing and personalities? Because I guess what I'm getting at. Okay, so
all across the board.
What I'm getting at is, are there any tall elves? I think is what I'm getting
Tall
at.
is relative when you're talking about an elf.
There are taller
elves
than others.
Taller elves. Is there a cap on the height of the elf?
Well, genetically, you're not going to have a 6 foot tall elf.
I see. Okay.
But
I had always wondered that, because I saw, Will Ferrell did, the movie Elf, and he was certainly a tall elf, and well, he wasn't really, but he thought he
wasn't really an elf, was he?
Actually, a human raised by elves.
Yes.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking it out, but I still was curious. It did make me think.
Many of the movies touch on truth in the North Pole. Even the engine referenced in that movie was loosely based on true stories out of the North Pole.
Things that we've tried in the past. Yeah.
Yes.
What? Get out the engine.
Many of the movies. Even our relationship. The fact that I was a teacher. My first name is really Jessica. That was what was the Santa Claus was coming to town. A lot of the little tidbits are loosely based on the true story of Santa and Mrs. Claus.
They'll take a little piece of something that actually happened, and they'll make a story about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Sometimes they'll consult us, sometimes they won't. Just like anything else.
Sure.
And then you're curious to see how it all played out.
Sure.
You have a favorite Christmas movie that you watch every year in the North Pole?
I enjoy the Polar Express.
Oh, that's a really good one.
I'm a big fan of Christmas Story.
She does. She likes
it's very funny.
She likes the funny type movies.
Very funny. But Miracle on 34th Street is iconic.
A classic.
The multiple languages spoken, even Santa and Mrs. Claus both speak multiple languages, making speaking with the children a lot easier.
Yeah.
That's something that's featured in that movie.
Yeah, it doesn't really, that's a good point. You guys would have to have know a lot of language. And
a lot of languages.
Be mastering.
Including sign language.
Oh, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Oh, how beautiful. So you can connect with everyone. That makes sense. I love that. Now I'm hearing a dog over there in the North Pole. Do you all have a dog?
We do. We have dogs, we have cats, we have obviously the reindeer, but there are also horses and all different types of animals. The North Pole is its kind of self-sustaining environment. So everything we need is here, and we have all different kinds of wildlife and animals that we need. But dogs and cats are great companions. We have many of them that we bring for children every year. So
Oh, that's
this
right.
time of year especially, we have quite a few that are running around here getting ready to go to their forever homes.
Santa does get a lot of requests for dogs and puppies and cats and kittens, but that has to be cleared by the parents.
It does.
Because some of them don't travel well on the sled.
Right. Santa will bring pets to children when they request them, if the parents are on board with it.
That's a good point. Good looking out. You got Mrs. Claus is always looking out for you, Santa.
Right. my right hand lady.
She is. Now you got a busy year, and we know what the reindeers do on Christmas Eve and help you get all the toys to all the children. But what are they doing the rest of the year? For real, are there any reindeer games happening the rest of the year? Is that real?
Absolutely. They do have reindeer games. They don't do that all the time, but they do have reindeer games.
Yeah.
And they will also get a little bit of a break after the big night for sure. We want to make sure that there's a couple of the pets getting ready for their trips to their forever homes.
Yep, I can hear them.
But yes, the reindeer will do some games. They do almost like their own version of a little reindeer Olympics, usually in the spring when they're getting ready to get back into shape for the big night again.
Do you have, some animals like people are more athletic than others. Do you have any of your reindeers that tend to dominate those reindeer games?
Well, the ones that do the best in the games are typically the ones that get a shot at pulling the sleigh. I mean, you all know the classic reindeer names. Those are the original reindeer, and some of them, they still have their sons and daughters that pull the sleigh for us. But typically, anybody new that wants to get on the sleigh would have to show that they're capable. So the games are a big part of that.
Ah, so they get a slot. How many reindeers do we have in the North Pole? I thought we just had 8, and then Rudolph.
Well, those are the ones on the big night that pull the sleigh, but there are hundreds of reindeer, probably more than that.
That's pretty exciting. So they get motivated to win the reindeer game so they can get a spot.
Get a spot on the sleigh.
That's so exciting. I love that. Now, prior to Christmas Eve, what does a typical day look like for the elves and for both of you throughout the year?
Prior to Christmas Eve?
Yeah.
Well, we spend most of the year, especially the second half of the year, really getting ready, prepping toys, getting the lists ready. We look at the list every day to see which kids are being naughty or nice, and hoping that give them that chance to correct it if they're being naughty and get them onto the nice list. But the elves, they're prepping toys, they're getting things ready most of the year. We take a few months off right at the beginning, but then it's back into it.
Yeah, what's the social life look like when you have downtime those 3 months? What's happening? Are there pubs up there and I don't know, bowling alleys?
Anything you would find in a regular city or town. All the different things, whatever the elves like to do. I know there are movie theaters.
We have a movie theater that only shows Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. They serve popcorn and everything. Like we have
candy canes, cotton candy,
all the Christmas treats, cookies, pots. Could you get cookies at the movie theater?
You can get cookies just about anywhere in the North Pole. I make sure of that.
That's a staple.
It's a staple. And so then milk's a staple too, maybe.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah, we try not to put too much alcohol out in front of the elves because they get a little bit crazy and rowdy if you give them a few too many drinks.
Yeah, so definitely the second half of the year, that's out. I get it.
Right. Keep them in control.
Okay. Are there candy eating contests among the elves by any chance? A sweet tooth like me wants to
more
know.
Cookie eating contest.
Yeah, cookies. I mean, you do have candy canes. There's some that can see who can make the biggest candy canes, the most colorful candy canes. So it's more of a making contest than eating. they're kind of small, so they can't eat that much. If you think of some of these food contests, they're eating just these huge amounts of food, but the elves are very tiny.
We have to keep the elves healthy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And they gotta make a lot of toys. All right, do they make, you said they make big candy canes. What's the biggest candy cane they've made? Like, do they make them bigger than them? Is that, or when you say
Sometimes,
big,
sure.
really?
Sure.
Candy canes can be the little tiny ones that you see that are smaller than your hand, or they can be 3-4 feet tall.
These are crafty little elves.
It's a trade they're born into.
Yeah, well, you can either work for Santa, you can work in a tree making cookies, or you can make shoes. Those are the three choices as an elf. So it's the best gig to have. So they really put their all into it.
Yeah, that's some big operations you guys have over there in the workshop. And we've been dealing with COVID. So how has that impacted your workshop operations?
Well, COVID, it was a concern all over the world, obviously. The North Pole is pretty self-contained. We don't get a lot of visitors up there, although I, of course, do go down all over the world, but I've been vaccinated and I make sure that I wear my mask when I'm going in and out of areas with a lot of people, but I do wash my hands,
hand sanitizer,
sanitize my hands, and when I come back from my trips, I make sure to clean them well, and then we try to keep a healthy environment for the elves and for Mrs. Claus and for all the other North Pole inhabitants.
But everybody in the North Pole's been vaccinated.
Yeah, we have just about 100%.
That's keeping it safe. That's good. Okay. Absolutely. All right. And there's been labor shortages too with COVID. Have you had any elf shortages or had to give any of the elves raises to keep them around?
Well, fortunately, no shortage of labor because it's sort of a family thing. They're born into it. They become workers in the workshop like their parents were, and they take pride in that. And so it's sort of a self-sustaining workforce. It's all sort of self-contained, and we have always paid the elves well. Of course, most of them they'll work for gingerbread, so it's very good a good relationship there. They're just happy to be there. So.
That's my kind of elf. I'd work for gingerbread in the North Pole too.
They're very well taken care of.
They are very well taken care of. They're well loved and well taken care of.
I love that. That's so good. What's your favorite thing to do in the North Pole, both of you, Mr. and Mrs. Claus? Is it the same thing, different thing? What's your favorite things?
I like taking care of the elves. I like overseeing the new elves, the new baby elves, just seeing the families and being a part of that, and just being part of the Christmas environment all year round. It's wonderful.
Every day.
Every
Christmas.
day.
Oh, that's so nice. How about you, Mr. Claus?
I really enjoy making the toys and overseeing the workshop. That's my favorite thing.
And you go around. What does that look like? You just go in there every day and chat with the elves, see how things are going.
See how they're doing. See if they're having any problems that we need to solve. If there's any backlogs in production, things like that. It's like running any other business, but we just make it a lot of fun.
What would you say are some of the common issues you run into in workshop operations?
Sometimes kids will change their list, things that they want. They'll add things, or they'll change what they want. So we might have to adjust that so they get the correct things that they're asking for. Sometimes somebody might misplace a list that somebody had, or they might put somebody on the naughty list that's really nice, and we have to correct that. So there's a lot of things like that we have to kind of adapt on the fly and make corrections to.
And every once in a while we get an item that is the popularity of a particular item. In the 80s, Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yes.
Oh, and, yes.
Elmo in the 90s or early 2000s, and certain generations have more popular
a lot of the video games now are very difficult to just, there's so many people that want one particular item. It makes it harder for us to keep up with the demand, which is why over time we've tried to upgrade the factory to be able to produce more and more things.
What's been the most unusual request?
A monkey.
A monkey.
Monkey.
Someone requested a monkey.
Yeah, monkeys don't travel well on the sleigh. I couldn't bring that.
No.
Oh my gosh, what do you do? Write a note, sorry about the monkey? I mean,
Well, this was somebody asked me that in person.
In person.
When we were visiting some children, and I had to tell them, I'm sorry, but monkeys don't travel well in the sleigh. But I did let them know where they could see monkeys at the different zoos and wildlife refuges around them, so they could go and see them that way.
Yeah, I imagine that would need definitely. That's a good suggestion, because I can't imagine a parent going, "Oh, sure. Well, maybe there is. Maybe there are people out there." I mean, monkeys do show up at people's homes, but like the dogs and cats, I would imagine also needs parent approval.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. What would be one of the most common things you see people ask for?
Dolls.
American Girl dolls.
American Girl dolls are very popular. Legos are very popular.
Legos.
For a long time, it was Tinker Toys and things of those types, things to build with, erector sets and that kind of thing. Very popular.
Yeah. Do you really like twinkle your nose and go up the chimney when there's one like that? You know?
Sure. Like I said, I have all kinds of tricks to get in and out of the houses that I can't divulge all of them to the audience.
And yeah, I bet you can't. I'm wondering too, in some of the movies we see, those reindeer are having a lot of fun, and well, some are strictly business. Others, are having a lot of fun and messing with each other. What's the real story with the reindeer?
A little bit of both. They're just like anyone else. They're like any other. They have personalities like any pet would have. So some get along and some get crazy and
that's a long night, not only for Santa but for the reindeer. So they may start out enthusiastic and full of energy, and then get a little tired, a little cranky. So a couple
about 3
carrots, a couple cookies later, they're feeling a little better, and so it's a lot of up and down. So that's why when they get back, it's a big celebration of a successful Christmas Eve, and we take the next day and celebrate, and relax, and enjoy,
and get some sleep.
So get some sleep. Oh, I just thought of another question. Do you know how, my son played football, so they could do like before the game speech and then the halftime speech, and then there's a after the game speech. Does Santa do a speech to the elves and reindeer? Like, we're getting ready to have a great night.
Oh, certainly. We have to get them all excited. Everybody's got to be raring and ready to go and do their best effort, especially for the whole week before Christmas, to really finish everything. And then, of course, on Christmas Eve to get everything done and loaded and out on time.
It's a big pep rally right before they go.
Sure. We have a big send off. And then when I come back, everybody's excited that it was successful. And we have a little sort of a shindig to wrap it up, a little
debriefing.
Let them know how it went, what could go a little better, and then enjoy the rest of the night. Well, usually morning. At that point.
Morning. So like the scene in Polar Express where everybody's getting all excited before the lift off and you're coming out and they're all jumping and cheering.
There again, that is one little part of real North Pole life that was brought to life in a movie.
Based on truth. Based on some truth, yes.
That's pretty, I love that scene. That's so great.
I think they did a nice job in that movie, which is a big reason why it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I like the little boy, and he got your jingle bell, and then he lost it, and then it showed up as a gift, and he could hear it. Is that thing true? Bell. If you can hear the bell, or is that legend? What is that about?
Well, no, it's sort of more of a metaphor for how people over time lose the belief. They lose the belief, and if you keep that belief, then you still hear the bells. You should.
A lot of Christmas magic. I did.
They're really, they've got the pups they're taken care of right now for those children this Christmas. I can hear them. It's so great. Yeah, I love that. It's really amazing legend you have, what would you say that you are most proud of, Santa?
Well, I'm most proud of the fact that for generations that people still every Christmas Eve they look up to see if they can see my sleigh because we've apparently touched their heart in some way. And that makes me proud. That makes me happy that people still look for us.
Oh, and how about you, Mrs. Claus? You've been at this job a long time alongside Santa. What are you most proud of over all the centuries doing this?
The continued magic of Christmas, just the sheer magic of how it happens, the decades and centuries of how it is still alive and well, and you can see it in children's faces and even adults' faces. Just to witness the magic of Christmas is beautiful.
Oh,
beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it's such a great lead into my next question, which is, as we wrap up here, can you share with the laughers your wishes to them this holiday season?
Sure. I wish that everybody is able to be with the people that they love the most, if that they're able to have what they need the most as far as enough food and shelter and clothing and things like that, the basic necessities, which a lot of people do not have, and that they're able to count their blessings for what they do have this Christmas season.
And celebrate kindness and good health. It's been a tough couple of years, but through kindness and love and just being together, we can bring the whole magic of Christmas back around.
All the love and compassion. Well, that's a great message, Clauses.
That's what we do.
It's what we do.
It is what you do. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. It was an absolute joy and treasure to spend time with you today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing people on the 11th.
Yes, that's what we're going to talk about next. Laughers, you can catch and chat with Mr. and Mrs. Claus live at X2 Comedy Night, December 11th, hosted by the Friendly City Dance Room in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Enjoy an hour comedy show with Mr. and Mrs. Claus in the audience to watch hilarious comedians, including yours truly, JMU Professor Chris Womack, Paul Snyder out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and JMU's new and improv troupe, who will be doing holiday-themed short improv games with suggestions from the audience. Then you can opt to stay after with Mr. and Mrs. Claus, where you can join them for a dance lesson to learn Kazumba, taught by Philip Fusaro, owner and dance instructor. Kazumba is a form of dance originated from Africa. We'll be sure to put that event info in the show notes as well, and we will see you there. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Bye. Ho, ho, ho.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring a show to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share us with a friend. Until next time, cheers.